Hey, I'm Anne Hesse, and I live in Stuttgart, Germany, and I'm a proud California voter.
Well, my name is Marnie Delaney, and I vote in California and live in France.
I'm Stacy Campero. I currently reside in Chicago, Illinois, but I was a member of the GWC living in Dusseldorf.
I'm Shannon Perry. I'm from Canada and I vote in California.
Hi, I am Jamie McAfee. I vote in Denver, Colorado. Very proud to be from Colorado, a solid blue state with a fantastic governor and representatives. I moved over to Edinburgh, Scotland in July of 2019 and am active with the DA Scotland chapter here in
Hi, I'm Carol Moore. I live in London, England, a member of DA UK, and I vote in Palm Beach County, Florida.
My name is Annie Perry. I live in a tiny township on the shores of Georgian Bay in Canada, and I vote in Goleta, California, near Santa Barbara.
I'm Dana Freeling, and I reside in Finland, and I vote in Texas, in Dallas.
I'm Angela Fobbs. I live in Germany, and I vote in Florida.
My name is Sally Swartz, and I live in France, and I vote in rural Pennsylvania in Cumberland County, which is a Republican stronghold.
I'm Sherry Temple. I live in Marzling, Germany, which is right outside of Munich. And I vote in Dallas County in Texas.
Hey, my name is Sheila Malevany Chevalier, and I live in France, in Paris, and I'm a New Jersey voter.
Hi, I'm Connie Board, and I live in France.
Hi, I'm Christina Skovsgaard, and I live in Oslo, Norway, and I vote in Ohio, to be more specific, Cuyahoga County.
Hi, my name is Doris Stanger. I am the Women's Caucus leader for Spain. I vote in California.
Hey, I'm Monica Cardenas, and I vote in Maryland. I live in the UK, and I'm chair of the UK Women's Caucus.
There, I'm Martha McDevitt Pugh, the International Chair of Democrats Abroad, and I'm a California voter living in the Netherlands.
And in 1992, I got elected to go to the convention in New York, which was a very exciting convention. This was what we call the Year of the Woman. It was also the year, 1993, that we elected more women to the House and to the Senate than we had ever had before. So we knew something was brewing and that women might be stepping up in the party and might be having more power, more political power and input. So I came back to Paris. I was all excited. I wanted to do something. And a friend of mine said, Bella Abzug, I know Bella Abzug, but a lot of people might not know who she was today. And she was a great, great New York woman, feminist, wore big hats, was at the UN, very active in New York. And she was coming through Paris, and she said, do you want me to invite her? And so I said, please do. I sent out a call to everybody, and my living room was packed. You couldn't squeeze another person into the living room. Bella came, and we said, you know, we're really anxious to do more for women, and what can we do? I hadn't even understood the notion of a caucus. She said, start a caucus. And so right there in the living room, we elected Sheila, I think, and me, and we started what was the first women's caucus.
It was a lot of fun because I was at the DA Europe conference in Edinburgh in 2015. And there was Sally Schwartz and Christine Moritz giving a presentation on their women's caucuses in France and Germany. And I was there with another member of our Women's Caucus who had recently joined. She was a grad student, and she had worked for NARAL when she was in college in America. And she was very committed. And at that point, I was chair of DAUK, and I thought, wow, we really have to do this with Hillary running. So we went back to London, and in January started calling out for Women's Caucus in the UK.
I got involved way in the beginning when the chair, Katie Solomon, who was the chair of the Democrats Abroad at the time, asked me to get involved because the chair was resigning, and we organized our very first official meeting in Edinburgh during a EMEA regional conference. We had a tea, and we started to draft our mission statement. I then became chair of the Global Women's Caucus. That was in 1915, if I recall, November 2015. And I didn't want to do it all by myself. I did it by myself for about six months, and then I asked Katie if she could find me a co-chair and or recommend one, and she recommended Ann Hesse. So we were co-chairs for a couple of years, and then my work schedule was getting a little bit too crazy, and so with Ann's agreement and Julia Bryan, she was chair at the time, I stepped down as co-chair of the entire Women's Caucus and became head of the action team for reproductive justice. So I've been in there as a leader for about 10 years, I would say. And at that time, we had a couple hundred members of the Global Women's Caucus, and subject to verification, I think we're either close to or slightly over 10,000 members now. So we really built it up over the years to an extremely powerful voice for women's rights in the United States. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the work we did. And I think it was a fantastic, we're still a fantastic group of women. We continue to be a fantastic group of women, and we continue to grow our strength and our voices, which I think is all the more needed in these days.
Oh, well, I was already active in my chapter, and I was trying to be active and forming a women's group for the Stuttgart chapter, and we met around my dining room table, the little Stuttgart Women's Caucus, and I was looking for guidance from above, from global, and I discovered that there was no real well-established global caucus. And in conversations with the leaders at the time, Katie Solon was chair and very, very enthusiastic and very supportive. And so I did, I guess you could call, you could say I'm part of the second wave Democrats Abroad Women's Caucus. I became aware that the France Women's Caucus had already been rolling for 20 years, and the Germany Women's Caucus was just getting going. I went to their first workshop and was really inspired by what they were doing, and which is why I went home and started a Stuttgart caucus. So by the time I came in, the Women's Caucus had been established well at the country committee level, but there wasn't really much going on globally. So when I came in, we were all excited about the first woman president and working on her campaign, and I was making all of these fancy plans about how it would be for a global women's caucus with the first real feminist in the Oval Office. And if I could say one thing about my experience with the Global Women's Caucus, it would be this, that we have always been nimble. We have always been adapting and changing and rising to the moment, I think you could say. No matter what the political world threw at us, we were ready for it. So we were working towards the President Clinton, and when that didn't happen, we didn't fall apart. We stopped, we regrouped, we pivoted to a new reality.
members and leaders, I would say we are here to lift each other up, not to compete with each other, to join together to achieve our common goals. And together we really are stronger.
Well, it's going to be new people, obviously, a younger group too, probably. And I will think by that time, perhaps, if we get the right people in office, we will get the Equal Rights Amendment passed.
Stay engaged. Make sure you take care of yourself. Do not get burned out. And know that sometimes you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you're making progress. And to reach out and try to get as many engaged as you can.
Oh, the advice I would give the next generation of members would be go for it. You know, we're inventing inside of Democrats Abroad. We invented Democrats Abroad 61 years ago, and that absolutely holds for our constituency, communities, and caucuses. And I love it when I see new leaders stepping up, especially new young leaders stepping up, which is happening in our organization. I would say don't look at it as like there's a template that you have to follow, but really invent how we can make the most difference as Democrats Abroad.
And in terms of what I'd like to see in the future, I think I've already talked about that. I'd like to see more volunteers, more active groups, more countries with their own women's caucus, and to have a bigger reach out into the wider world.
That we are still listening to one another. I hope that we are speaking our truths. I hope that we can listen to one another and change our minds, which is what I think is the superpower of this group.
One of the most important things, besides being strong and not taking any BS from anyone, and modeling what women can do, I think the most important thing is the thing that we talk about, particularly in business, is when you get up the ladder, look back down and grab somebody by the hand and bring them up with you. I think that's a hugely important thing in life and in DA especially. And I think there are a lot of people who do that in terms of mentorship.
To listen, I think, I'm 40. And I think I'm on the younger end of the spectrum for a lot of the women in the Global Women's Caucus, or at least sort of middle range. And I think it's so important to listen and hear what everybody else is, like I said, bringing those different perspectives and knowledge, because these are people who have had long careers and know a lot and are just giving that experience and knowledge away freely if you're willing to listen. So I think that's really important, and to stay committed and to do the teamwork, be willing to be part of a team in order to accomplish our goals.
Remember the past. Like, this is one of the, not get stuck in it. Just remember where we came from. That women have to hold on to the fact that we had to fight for everything that we got. And that if we don't remember that, then we'll be lulled into complacency. And this is what is happening now, that we're lulled into complacency, and you have all these women who are like trad wives or stay-at-home girlfriends or whatever. It's all some BS. I mean, really, there's nothing. I cook and clean and all this other stuff, but nobody's holding a gun to my head telling me to do it, or threatening me if I don't. And that's because I'm free. And if we want to stay free, then we have to remember we can't fall into the trap of nostalgia for the way it used to be, because it wasn't that great for women.
I would say, first off, don't underestimate yourself. Don't underestimate your skill set, your abilities. I almost went to the founding conference of the Women's Caucus at the very first time. That there was a mail sent out with qualifications, and I looked at all of those qualifications, and I did that thing that women do. What's it called? where you underestimate your ability. And I said, oh, I'm not so good at that, and I can't do that, and so I underestimated myself, and I do sort of scold myself sometimes for not having more confidence in my ability and the lessons I had learned over so many years and the skills that I had. So my number one recommendation for anyone who's considering stepping into a leadership role in Democrats Abroad is to don't underestimate yourself. That you probably have plenty of skills, and if you have an idea, just try it. Just try it. See if it works. It might not work. It might fail, but you can learn from your failures and say, "Oops, shouldn't have done that. Maybe we'll do it this way instead." And I think it should be okay to do that in a group of other volunteers who are all just doing their best. The other thing, the very last thing I would say about that is to don't try to go it alone. Share your responsibilities with a team. Be a team player and acknowledge the fact that there are a lot of people out there who do this or that thing better than you do. And we are all enriched by saying, oh, thank God you know how to do this. I was having trouble with this. Will you help me with this? That is such a strong trait as a leader, to be able to say, I'm not so good at that. Can you help me with that? So those are the recommendations I would make for a new leader.